Welcome to the news update on AFRICUNIA television, reaching you from the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Deborah Ezeh, and many thanks for joining me. Looking into the African scene, Kenya's deputy president has taken a swipe at the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, over his decision to support the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. Ruto accused Kenyatta of his economic policies, claiming that Kenya was heading in the wrong direction and that it will fix the mess within 30 days after being elected into office. The statement was in relation to current Kenya's public debt, which has risen by $61.32 billion from nearly $17 billion since Kenyatta assumed office in 2013. Ruto was declared as a presidential candidate to his new outfit, the United Democratic Alliance Party, on Tuesday during a national delegation that brought in more than 5,000 delegates across the country. And in Somalia failed to complete elections for the lower House of Parliament by Tuesday, 15th of March deadline, marking yet another delay in the electoral process that should lead to the appointment of a new president, which has been expected for more than a year. The Somali government, which last month extended the deadline for completing the appointment of members of the lower house to 15th of March, had made no announcement by early Tuesday evening. On Tuesday, the federal states of Southwest and Galamdog concluded the election of their representatives, but 40 of the 275 seats in the lower house remained to be filled in 3 states, according to accounts based on official data. And now in Nigeria, stakeholders in the downstream segment of the oil and gas sector, as well as some members of the private sector, have projected that the country's spending on subsidy may exceed the 3 trillion naira appropriated for its going by oil futures and landing cost of the commodity. With the landing cost of premium multi-spirit already hovering around or over 400 naira litre at the official exchange rate of 416 naira 45 kobo, marketers noted that the figure may be higher if the prior market price is used as a benchmark. Specifically, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry yesterday predicted that Nigeria would borrow more to finance its monthly payments of subsidizing fuel consumption in the country. The chamber stated that with a monthly payment of about 250 billion naira to subsidize fuel consumption and the sum of 3 trillion naira already provided in the 2022 federal government budget and an additional expenditure against the projected revenue, deficit financing has increased significantly. And still in Nigeria, rising energy costs both in electricity and fuel segments, geopolitical tension and fiscal indiscipline have triggered fresh concern over fast rising prices, even as headline inflation rose marginally to 15.7% in February, 0.1% higher than the January figure. The latest inflation data were contained in the February Consumer Price Index released by the National Bureau of Statistics yesterday. The food inflation rate, which is a closely watched index, dropped to 17.11% in February 2022 from 17.13% recorded in the previous month. Meanwhile, the country's trade deficit continues to widen, according to the breakdown of foreign trade statistics released yesterday. Of the 39.75 trillion naira total trade value recorded last year, exports accounted for 48%, while imports was valued at 52%. And still on the African scene, the UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, Matthias Kumel, says the food economy in the West Africa and Sahel sub-region is projected to reach $480 billion in 2030. Matthias said this at the 13th multidisciplinary meeting of 15 West African countries and Sahel sub-region in Abuja to brainstorm on the way forward to the food and nutrition situation in the region. He said the expected growth would be attributed to systematic approach undertaken by the Food and Agriculture Organization of UN in securing development gains in fight against hunger, poverty, and for progressing on the delivery of other sustainable development goals. He, however, appealed to West African countries to seize the opportunity to build resilient agri-food system in the region and align with FAO's strategic framework to address structural policy constraints. And now we head to the foreign scene. Japan is set to announce on Wednesday the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions imposed on Tokyo and 17 other prefectures as a wave of infections caused by the Omicron variant continues to ebb. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is scheduled to speak as he is expected to announce the lifting of curbs on March 21st, along with a further easing of border measures. Tokyo logged 7,836 coronavirus cases on Tuesday, down 12% from a week earlier. An Omicron wave led to record infections rates in the capital and throughout Japan in February, which is the nation's deadliest wave of the pandemic so far. And still on the foreign scene, North Korea fired an unknown projectile on Wednesday, which appeared to fail immediately after launch, South Korea's military said, amid reports that the nuclear-armed North is seeking to test fire its largest missile yet. The United States and South Korea have warned that North Korea may be preparing to launch an intercontinental ballistic missile at full range for the first time since 2017. The U.S. military Indo-Pacific Command called this a ballistic missile launch. The command did not mention the reports or reported failure, but condemned the launch and urged Pyongyang to refrain from further destabilizing acts. And moving away from that story, Paris is prepared to loosen its grip on Corsica in a process that could lead to a yet-to-be-decided autonomous status for the island. France's Interior Minister was quoted by a Corsican newspaper as saying ahead of a visit on Wednesday. The comment, published ahead of a two-day visit to Corsica, follows protests last week that revived long-standing tensions between Corsica and Paris less than a month before presidential elections in the Eurozone's second biggest economy. Damenei said in his remarks that dealing with the island's status would be a priority during a potential second term in office for President Emmanuel Macron. An update for peace talks on the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Wednesday peace talks were sounding more realistic, but more time was needed as Russian airstrikes killed 5 people in the capital Kyiv, and refugee tally from Moscow's invasion reached 3 million. Ukrainian officials have raised hopes that the war could end sooner than expected, possibly by May, saying Moscow may be coming to terms with its failure to impose a new government by force and running out of fresh troops. In a hint of possible compromise, Zelensky said earlier Ukraine was prepared to accept security guarantees from the West that stopped short of its long-term goal of joining NATO. And away from that scene, on to the sports scene. Manchester United is out of the Champions League after a 1-0 home defeat to Atletico Madrid saw the beaten 2-1 on aggregate. Ronaldo's first-half header was enough to take Diego Simeone's side into quarter-finals as Ralf Rangnick's team endured a frustrating evening at Old Trafford. Anthony Elanga had appeared to be fouled in the build-up to the goal, but United lacked the spark at the other end that was required to break down a resolute Atletico. And finally, the European Union has imposed sanctions on Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich in new measures targeting Russia. As it stands, Chelsea Champions League last 16 second leg at Lille is going ahead as scheduled today, with talks continue between UEFA and the EU. The EU included the Russian oligarch in its updated list of individuals facing asset freeze and travel bans due to his close links with Vladimir Putin. The news comes as Chelsea have also withdrawn their request to play Saturday's FA Cup quarter-final against Middlesbrough behind closed doors after widespread criticism. And that's all from us on News Update tonight. Do ensure to follow all our social media platforms and join Team Pangram, Instagram and Facebook respectively. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay connected and up to date to our news and other programs. Once again, I'm Deborah Ezeh. Bye for now.